Christian Wolff had spent years in the shadows, helping the government and certain private clients clean up the messes no one else could. But now he was tired. After the events of The Accountant 2, he had relocated to a small coastal town, living under a new identity as a quiet math tutor for local kids. His days were calm, structured, and peaceful, until an old contact from the Treasury Department, Marybeth Medina, showed up at his door with a sealed file. Marybeth's visit wasn't social. She revealed that a former client of Christian's, an international tech billionaire, had been murdered, and the digital trail led directly back to one of Christian's old encrypted ledgers. The implication was clear. Someone had resurrected his old work to frame him. At first, Christian wanted nothing to do with it. But when he found his bank accounts frozen and his new identity flagged, he realized he was being hunted again. Christian turned to the only person he could trust, his brother, Braxton. The two had been working to repair their bond after years of estrangement. Braxton, now operating in the legitimate private security sector, reluctantly agreed to help. Together, they began retracing the billionaire's financial connections, uncovering a network of shell companies tied to global defense contracts. The numbers didn't lie. It wasn't just about money. It was about power. As they dug deeper, Christian noticed something odd. Several of the assassinations tied to the case were executed with military precision. The pattern reminded him of his father's old military training programs. It dawned on him that someone had revived his father's project, using mathematical models to predict and control high-level assassinations. The realization disturbed him. It wasn't just business corruption anymore. It was personal. Meanwhile, Medina faced pressure from her superiors to bring Christian in, dead or alive. She knew he was innocent, but political forces within the Treasury and the Pentagon wanted him silenced before he uncovered too much. Torn between duty and conscience, she secretly began feeding Christian information through encrypted channels. It was a dangerous game that could cost her career or her life. Christian began using his unique gift again, dissecting numbers, patterns, and data streams to track the movement of assassins. Every code, every transaction told a story. He discovered a mysterious figure known only as the Auditor, a rogue accountant who once trained under the same covert program Christian had escaped. The Auditor was now using the system for global manipulation, laundering war profits through humanitarian fronts. One night, Christian and Braxton were ambushed outside a storage facility that held evidence of the project. The firefight was brutal and efficient. Whoever attacked knew their tactics. Christian barely escaped with a flash drive containing encrypted data that could expose the entire network. But Braxton was wounded, forcing Christian to make a choice: save his brother or finish the mission. He chose blood over business. They retreated to a safe house, where Christian's old behavioral patterns began resurfacing. His rigid routines, his counting, his obsession with symmetry, it all came back stronger under stress. But instead of hindering him, it helped him think. In one late-night moment of clarity, he decrypted part of the data and realized the network was preparing to assassinate a world leader to trigger an international conflict. The revelation changed everything. Christian could no longer just defend himself. He had to stop them. Using Medina's intel and Braxton's contacts, they tracked the next hit to a private summit in Switzerland. Christian began assembling a plan not just as a hitman or accountant but as a strategist. His calm, analytical mind turned the entire operation into a chessboard. In Zurich, Christian infiltrated the summit under a forged identity. Every movement, every calculation was precise. But the Auditor anticipated him. The two finally met in a tense, quiet confrontation. Two mathematical minds that mirrored each other. The Auditor revealed his philosophy. Numbers don't lie. People do. I just help balance the equation. Christian understood him too well, but he couldn't let him win. Their showdown wasn't about brute force, it was about precision. They battled through mirrored corridors of a high-security facility, using calculations to predict each other's next move. Christian's instincts and trauma collided with his intellect in a haunting dance of logic and violence. In the end, Christian gained the upper hand, outsmarting his rival with a calculated misdirection. As police stormed the facility, Christian handed Medina the decrypted files. They contained evidence of government corruption, assassinations, and war profiteering. She promised to expose it, but both knew the system would only take down a few scapegoats. The real architects would hide behind bureaucracy. Christian accepted that reality. He had done what he could. Braxton recovered slowly, and the brothers shared a rare moment of quiet reflection. They spoke about their father, their scars, and how their lives had been defined by discipline and violence. For the first time, Christian allowed himself to consider something beyond survival, maybe even peace. But deep down, he knew peace wasn't built for men like him. Months later, Christian returned to tutoring, this time for children with autism. He found purpose in helping them channel their patterns, their focus, their need for structure, turning what the world saw as weakness into strength. It was his way of balancing the equation within himself. Then one evening, a black SUV parked across from his small school. Christian noticed immediately. His mind registered the license plate, the angle, the time. He sighed softly. Trouble had found him again. A man in a suit stepped out and placed a briefcase on a bench, nodding subtly before walking away. Curiosity won. Inside the case was a single ledger, blank but embossed with a familiar symbol, an old insignia from his father's training unit. Beneath it, a note read, "You finished your equation, now start mine." Christian's eyes narrowed. The story wasn't over. It had just evolved. Medina called that same night, her voice urgent. The files she'd leaked had exposed several government operatives, but new assassinations were already being covered up. She asked Christian for help again, warning him that the network had deeper roots than they'd imagined. This time, he didn't hesitate. Christian packed his few belongings, locked the door behind him, and disappeared into the night. His routine shifted seamlessly from tutor to hunter once more. There was no dramatic farewell, no second thoughts. Just a man who understood his purpose too well. Somewhere far away, the auditor's encrypted accounts activated again, suggesting he might not have died after all. Christian's mission reignited, not just as survival, but as vengeance. The accountant was back in the shadows, doing what he did best, balancing the world's deadly numbers, one equation at a time. And as the credits rolled, his calm voice narrated over a quiet score. Numbers define everything, but in the end, it's not about balance. It's about truth. The screen faded to black, hinting that justice, like math, is never truly complete. Weeks passed since Christian vanished, and whispers of his reappearance began circulating in underground financial circles. Encrypted transactions and ghost signatures started surfacing in high-level accounts connected to intelligence agencies. Those who once believed the accountant had retired now realized he was active again, this time with a purpose. Christian had found new ways to manipulate digital ledgers, exposing corruption without ever pulling a trigger. The world's most dangerous accountant had evolved into a silent crusader. Meanwhile, Medina faced consequences for her actions. Branded as a whistleblower, she was forced out of the Treasury Department and placed under investigation. Yet, instead of regret, she felt relief. Her alliance with Christian had shown her that truth mattered more than reputation. In secret, she built a small network of analysts, coders, and insiders who shared her vision. A team dedicated to uncovering global corruption through numbers. Little did she know, Christian was quietly funding her entire operation from the shadows.